This cute little SUV beside me is the new Kia Niro Electric. It's the smaller and less sporty sibling of the EV6, but it does have something that the EV6 can't compete with, and that's price. Its rivals are the MG ZS EV and the Hyundai Kona Electric. Stay watching to see how it's performed after a week of driving it with my family of three. The Niro S is the base model and will cost you around $65,000 before on-road costs, which makes it $5,000 dearer than the equivalent Kona Electric and $20,000 more expensive than the ZS EV. It's also a substantial hike from the previous Niro model, and if you're not ready to commit to the full EV life, you can pick up an entry-level hybrid Niro for $20,000 less. This comes with some good little features like wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto and a good driving range of 460 kilometers. However, being the base model, you do make do with halogen headlights, which is obvious against the LEDs. The full details are in my written review at carsguide.com.au if you need more details. The front seat has plenty of room for my 168cm or 5'6" height. Plus the seats are super comfortable. I really like that the driver's side is electric with lumbar support while the passenger side remains manual. The synthetic trim on the seats looks nice and is good to touch. The storage is a little bit lean and could be a bit better because the middle console and glove box are a bit shallow. But I do like the dedicated phone pocket and that these cup holders are retractable if you need those extra space. It's also a bonus that you get a USB-A and C port and a 12-volt port too, and you don't need a cable because it has wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. I really love how Kia have executed the design of the dashboard. It's beautiful to look at, it's very pleasing inside. The only thing I will say though is that the heavy plastic around this touchscreen does make it look a little bit smaller than what it actually is. But the graphics are very clear. It is a different system to the Kia systems that I've used before, but it's okay once you get used to it. The back seat is nice but does feel cozy. I still have plenty of head and leg room behind my driving position though. The seats carry the comfort from the front. They are super well padded, and I imagine I'd be comfy on a long journey if I was back here. The amenities are pretty standard for a base model, but I do like that you get two USB-C ports, directional air vents, cup holders, and a very comfy armrest. The only thing I'll mention too, awesome having a hardened kick plate, especially when you have little ones around. But I would have preferred a darker headliner just because my kid attracts dirt. There are ISOFIX child seat mounts on the outboard seats, plus 3 top tether points. You'll probably only fit 2 car seats comfortably back here because the seat's a little bit narrow. I do like the flat floor though, because if you do have to have 3 people back here, they're going to be fairly comfortable. You will be able to fit a 0 to 4 rearward facing child seat, but if you're a tall family, it will encroach on front passenger comfort. The boot is a good size for this size SUV with 475 litres of capacity available. The front storage is a little bit small with 20 litres available, which is just enough for a charging cable. However, this boot does feel more like a hatchback because while you can readjust the floor, it does slope up at the back. Just means you have to be more strategic with gear storage. Being the base model, this is not a powered tailgate, but the boot lid isn't too heavy. The only thing I don't love about it is that when you do close the lid, the rear spoiler sort of rattles. It just doesn't feel that solid. This Niro is a full EV with a front-wheel drive drivetrain and a maximum output of 150 kilowatts and 255 Newton meters worth of torque. It's not as powerful as its stablemate, and it only has a single motor that's powered by a 64.8 kilowatt per hour lithium-ion battery. It has a 0 to 100 kilometer per hour sprint time of 7.8 seconds, and with specs like those, does make me feel like it would be more comfortable in an urban setting. Let's talk charging. This has a Type 2 charging port, and on a 7 kilowatt system, you can go from 10 to 80% in 9 hours and 25 minutes. On an 11 kilowatt system, you can see that figure drop by 3 hours. The onboard DC charger has up to 85 kilowatts of capacity, and that means that if you were to pop onto a 50 kilowatt fast charging station, you can go from 10 to 80% in just 1 hour and 5 minutes. Unfortunately, that does mean though that if you were to hop onto a 350 kilowatt ultra fast charging station, you're only going to save 22 minutes because it actually can't accept those speeds. The official kilowatt per hour per 100 kilometers is 16.2 kilowatts per hour. Onboard testing came to 14.3 kilowatts per hour after a mix of urban and open road driving. However, I did see it go up to 20 kilowatts per hour on longer trips. Still, I would consider it to be efficient. As I've said, this does have a 460 kilometer driving range, which is good and better than some other EVs on the market. But I still found that I had a little bit of range anxiety this week. And if I was an EV owner, I would be investing in a wall mount option for my garage at home. There is something that I'm not overly fond of for the EV life, and that's when it comes to charging, because sometimes when you are on charge, you can feel like you're getting pressured to hop off it by another owner. And that comes in the form of questions like, when did you plug in? How long does your car have to go? How long are you going to be here for? And that can make me feel, at least, that I have to validate the right of charging my car. Now, not all owners do this, mind, but sometimes you do get angsty owners who almost tapping their feet waiting for their turn, which puts too much pressure on me. That's all the techie stuff. Let's drive it. This is a very simple car to operate, but it doesn't feel as fun as some other EVs that I've driven. It can even feel a bit sluggish when you go from a full stop, where the acceleration can be a little bit laggy. Once you get up to speed though, it's fine on the open road and you feel confident when you have to overtake though. I like how connected you feel to the road in this. The steering is very direct. It does what you want in a timely fashion, which is great, and with minimal shuddering through the steering column. I did find though that the lane keeping aids were actually quite strong and can make the driving experience feel a bit jerky at times, so I did turn these off most of the time. The regen braking has a big physical presence like its bigger sibling, the EV6, but it's not as refined, and at times it can even feel like you're bunny hopping. The regen braking can be customized though to 4 levels, 0 being low regen and 4 being the I-pedal. I didn't really rate the I-pedal all that much, so I did stay at level 3 for most of the week. I didn't notice a big difference between the drive mode, so I did keep it on normal. The regen braking isn't all that surprising given that this is an EV, and I'm sure it's something that you'd get used to pretty quickly. The ride comfort in this is a bit mixed though. Around town it's pretty comfortable, but you do get a lot of passenger movement, and at times can almost feel bumpy, like you're bouncing along. I didn't love it on the open road because that is accentuated, but overall, it's alright. Despite the engine being whisper quiet, the cabin gets really loud with road and wind noise. You can still chat, but you're not going to forget it's there, which is a real shame. This does earn back some points with how easy it is to park. It's a really good size for a tight car park, and the 10.6 meter turning circle is fantastic. I really like the reversing camera too, it's super clear, but I would have preferred to have had front parking sensors on this as well as the rear parking sensors, but you do get this on the GT line. In terms of safety, this has a lot of the features that I always like to see on a family car, and a highlight is the check rear occupant alert, which is always great to have when you have little ones around, as well as a driver fatigue alert, which does monitor your driving via the steering wheel. The Niro has been recently awarded a maximum 5-star ANCAP safety rating in 2022 and has 8 airbags, including a driver's knee airbag and the newer front center airbag. The full safety specs are in my detailed written review at carsguide.com.au if you need more details. The ongoing costs for the Niro are really good because it comes with Kia's better than average for the market, 7-year or up to 150,000 kilometer warranty, and that also covers the battery. You can get a 7-year cap price servicing program with this, and services average $250 per year, which is really good. The servicing intervals are more in line with a fuel-based car at every 12 months or 15,000 kilometers, whichever occurs first. It is normal to see those figures doubled for an EV, but it's still reasonable. The Kia Niro S Electric is a solid little SUV that has decent space inside and some nice specs, but it is more expensive than its nearest rivals. The EV powertrain does take a little bit to get used to, and I would have liked a smoother ride, but the driving range is pretty good. For first-time EV owners, this wouldn't be a bad car to dip your toes in the water with, but I do think it will suit urban dwellers best and those small families like mine, so this gets a 7.5 out of 10 from me. My son wasn't in love with this one, there weren't enough buttons for him to press, and to be honest, he did comment that it was quite a bumpy ride for him in the back seat, so he gives it a 6 out of 10. If you're after more details, check out my detailed written review at carsguide.com.au, and I'll see you next week.